Shalom! All praises to the Most High, Anoka said. Praise be to the earthly mother, the Pachamama, and all of her earthly angels, the Erkadeshoe. Praise be to the Holy Spirit, the Kahe, in the name of his only begotten Son, Motsah the Lamb, unification to the nation. Okay guys, so I actually woke up this morning and had the idea for this video. This is not something that I have been studying for any amount of time at all. This is literally something that I woke up and I just started making this video. So I'm a bit spooked out right now, but I'm just going to share this information. I want to make a disclaimer. Please look into this yourself. Please do not believe anything I say. As I always say, everything I say on my channel is my perspective and my opinion. So please do your own research, because I'm not trying to mislead anyone, because I don't lead anyone anywhere. So don't follow me, follow the Most High and have faith in him. However, I believe that I do have quite a compelling argument to make, but I am just telling you to make your own decision about things. Now, this is going to contain a lot of math and, a lot of logic and jumping around. So I'm going to have a split screen on some notes on the left and some of the stuff that I'm going to look at on the right. So you might have to look at this video a few times. I'm just warning you. I'm going to do my absolute best to explain it. Alright? So let's open this up. And let's open this up. So just bring your attention over here for just a second. This is Genesis 15:13. And he said unto Abraham, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. We all know the scripture, right? However, why do we assume that this is talking about a solar year, like the year that we use for our high holy days? Why are we assuming that? We're assuming that is a 365.26 day, right, of the year. However, we already know that what Ecclesiasticus says, 43 verse 6, he made the moon also to observe her, he made the moon also to serve in her season for a declaration of times and a sign of the world. And as I went over in Aki, the moon is a symbol to be used to signify the end of the world. So the moon and a lunar calendar would have its uses. I hope you guys know what I'm getting at, because I was looking at an article this morning, and we're going to go over it. I'm just letting you know beforehand so you guys can prep yourself. But it said that this great conjunction is something that happened 400 years ago, and then another 400 years before that. And specifically, this one happened 800 years ago. And they're calling it the Christmas star, the Star of Bethlehem. That's very odd. But we're going to get into it. So just quickly, a lunisolar calendar. A lunisolar calendar is a calendar in many cultures whose date indicates both the moon phase and the time of the solar year. If the solar year is defined as a tropical year, then a lunisolar calendar will give an indication of the season. If it is taken as a sidereal year, then the calendar will predict the constellation near which the full moon may occur. So this is an all-purpose calendar. It constitutes the lunar and the solar year, pretty much, right? The moon and the sun. Oops, that was just a picture. I was thinking about what's thumbnail to put. Let me see what I want to go here. Such lunar calendars have been produced by many cultures. Some cultures mark the cycles on bone, similar to the Paleolithic examples Hamashiach documented. Others knotted strings, yet others notched trees. Some cultures still create calendar sticks, i.e. Australian Aborigines. Now, the Australian Aborigines are some of the oldest people in the world. And, as I say on my channel, I believe that is where ancient Egypt was. Ancient Sumer is in that region. And then we walked across Antarctica and went into South America. But Anyway, they're doing this. Why? Because they're following some sort of calendar. They're tracking the time. Because you can have a sense of time regarding the soul, like the sun, right? But it's a different sense of time. To know when things are going to pop off, you need to track the moon. So even a quote unquote primitive culture like them, they're tracking the moon. Another sign. A synodic period. A synodic period, this is the time required for a body within the solar system, such as a planet, the moon, or an artificial Earth satellite, to return to the same or approximately the same position relative to the sun as seen by observer on the Earth. So pretty much, if you have, let's say you put your arm in front of you, and you have it pretty much circle around your body, or you could do whatever you want with it. Doesn't necessarily even have to circumvent your body, but it's going through a certain process, right? In fact, I'll say it this way, because I'll just use a sports analogy. To throw a football, you have to have your hand in a certain position, and it has to snap back in that position if you want to throw it again. That is what a synodic period is. It's pretty much the time it takes for something to go from point A, do its cycle, and then come back to point A, that exact same spot, because everything kind of has a cycle. The sun moves in the exact same cycle. The sun is quite consistent. The other bodies in the solar system are not as consistent, i.e. being the moon. And that's why we're not necessarily supposed to use the moon for our high holy days, or to signify when a day ends or begins. But we are supposed to use it for other reasons. So I hope you guys understand what a synodic period is. We're going to, get another definition if you didn't. No, I don't have to go here. So a synodic period is the amount of time required for a planet to return to the same point in its orbit relative to the Earth and Sun, right? So it just has, so pretty much how long it takes to go through its round. Doesn't necessarily have to move in a circle, doesn't have to circumvent the Earth or anything like that, but it has to go through its round, through its process. And each body has a certain amount of time that it takes. All of it is not 365. They all have different time periods. I'm going to show you in 1 second. And here's that second. You have Mercury, right? It has this amount of time. Venus, right? But here's the thing. I want you to pay attention to one of these. Jupiter. Now, we went over Jupiter in part 1. And how it's referred to the Messiah planet. The Greeks referred to it as Zeus. But that's kind of why Hamashiach was referred to as Zeus, because it makes sense. That's only proving actually who he is. Because if the Greeks were referring to him as Zeus, as their god Zeus, then that's a term of endearment. They're saying, oh, he's the Zeus. But which one came first, Zeus or Jupiter? What they call Jupiter. Jupiter, right? Okay then. So they're just naming him based on Jupiter, based on the Messiah, who comes when? Who goes through its period every what? Almost 400 years, 399 days. Years, excuse me. 399 years. Right? Listen, I got way more than this. We're just going to keep flowing. So as you can see over here, the brother Big Levi been going through the Kabbalah, and I've, some of the brothers I talked to, they've been going through it as well, and we're trying to, kind of figure it out. But he brought something to my attention. These last 3 numbers. You have 300, 400, and 100, and we're trying to get to 10, right? This is the last part, and this is I believe, yeah, this is Tav. In the New Hebrew, it's called Tav. In the Paleo, it's Ta, Taw. and it means 400. That's the value of it. You have sin equals 300, kuf equals 100. But altogether, this equals what? 800, right? 800. Don't worry about the rest of this text. We'll get into it. 800. Let's go to that article. Let me just go to it right now. That's not it. Not yet. Hold on. That's not it. Jupiter and Saturn to align in December to create Christmas star for the first time in what? 800 years. For the first time in nearly 800 years, Jupiter and Saturn will align in the winter solstice sky to become what is known as the Christmas star on December 21st. The last time this rare celestial event, called the Great Conjunction, was observable was March 4th, 1226. The gas giants closely aligned in 1623. So, as you can see, there's a time period. So they aligned during the 1200s, the 1600s, and they're about to align in the 2000s. Close to 400 years, right? And that's when I, calculated the days in between this time period. So in between this date, March 4th, 1226, and this date, I didn't show this date, but the date is, I'll just show you here. So in between March 4th, 1226, and July 16, 1623, you have 397 years. Right? 397 years. 3 years off of 400 years. But we're going to get to that. So it's 397 years in between these two dates, right? In between the Great Conjunction 800 years ago and 400 years ago, right? So I went from July 1623 to December 2020. 397 years. So this is very consistent, as you can see. This is very consistent. This is very close to each other. This means that this is a clock that's ticking. This is a clock. Now, let's go over here. Now, I put birth of Messiah was this. Actually, March 4th, 1226. And I've gone over this theme on my channel before, how I believe that that they've added 1,200 years to the whole calendar, right? And then they've kind of taken stories from the Middle Ages and stretched them out throughout the missing period. And they've created fake and imaginary characters. That's what they did. Because we're really probably in the year 800. That's the funny part, man. So, this date plus 397 years, I said, is the beginning of Esau's rulership, which is July 1623. Then plus 397 years, you have the beginning of Jacob's rulership. Now, I tried to find, well, wait a minute. How come this isn't 400? So I was like, well, how many days need to be in a year for this to be 400? So it would need to be 362.5 days. That would have to be in a quote-unquote year in order for it to be a 400-year prophecy. I don't know if I said that right, but just look at my math. I times how many days are in a year. I times it by the amount of actual years, solar years, that we have in between these dates. I got this number. I divided it by 400 and I got this. So every 362.5 days is a quote-unquote 400-year prophecy. Now we come over here. You have 300, 100, 400. So we must be in this last 400 period. But there was another period where it was a 100 period and a 300 period. Now let me go to this article. Nope, it was not that article. Nope, it was not that article. One second. As you can see, I'm squished up with these tabs. Okay. So you have something that was 800 years ago, right? Right? That was 800 years ago. That was the beginning of whatever is happening here. Now, was 300 years after that? Was it this date? Because there was another conjunction during this time in the 1500s. So from the 1200s to the 1500s, that's your 300. 15 to 16, that's your 100. 16 to 2000, that's your 400. Now we're going to get back to the 362.5 day year. We're going to get back to that. But now I wanted to dig more on the Ta, right? The 400 and everything else that has to do with it. So Ta, also spelled Tav, also spelled Ta, is this 22nd and final letter of the Hebrew alphabet. It's the final letter. It's the end, right? Final. The numerical value is 400. And this is the modern day Hebrew. That's why it's this. It's 400, right? Moving on. But this is it in the Paleo Hebrew. It's an X. Some people say it's a cross. It's the same thing. Cross, X, is the same thing. Right? And Hamashiach died on the cross, right? Doesn't matter which way it was flipped. It was on a cross. It was on two intersecting lines. So I find it weird that there's two intersecting lines here. It's the Ta, the X, the contract. It's the new contract. That is when everything comes to a final. That is the finale. It is our new contract. He's already taking them down. But this is nothing yet, man. This is nothing. They still have their power. They're on their decline. If you think we're doing pretty well now, like, come on. Now I wanted to get into this because you have the Elf, Mem, and Ta, right? That is the first, the middle, and the last. When you put it all together, it's Emet, or truth. So it is the last alphabet. It is the last. It is the end. Let me see. So went over that. Now I want to come back to 362.5. Because now I was wondering, well, what the heck was going on? Where am I getting this number from? Then I looked it up. Now I'm going to leave this in the description, this PDF in the description, because this is too much math for me, bro. Way too much math. I don't really understand too much of how he got to this point, but I believe that he got to this point in a similar way that I arrived here. Well, I did it from pretty much going by these dates and then catching a pattern. But he caught a pattern. And what does he call this pattern? Let's find out what he calls this pattern. So I'm just going to read what he says. If you guys understand it, so be it. But in dividing the number 50 by 4 phases, one gets the number 12.5, which is a hidden number of months in the respective lunar orbital period. On dividing the number 116 by 4 phases, one gets the number 29, which is also a hidden number of days in the respective lunar orbital period. So he is, I guess, trying to calculate some sort of lunar orbital period. He's trying to calculate pretty much the true lunar, what word did I use? Sidonic period. So he was able to do that. Now he took the two numbers that he calculated, 29 multiplied by 12.5. That equals to what? 362.5 days. Right? That's how we got it. That's the true lunar synodic year. That's the year that he got. So that's our 400 years. 362.5 solar years equals 400 lunar synodic years. Right? Now I'm going to share some dates with you because I don't really get all of these dates. Like, I calculate these dates. Pretty much what I did is that now that I know how many days are in a lunar synodic year, I was able to multiply them. So I multiplied this 362.5 times 300 times 100 and times 400. And then I backtrack from here pretty much to find this date, because I know this date is correct, but I don't know if the dates that they're giving me are correct. Meaning, July 16th, right? I don't know if that's the correct date. But I do know that December 21st, 2020 is the correct date, so I went backwards. Now, these two dates don't really make sense to me because I'm not really sure what happened on these dates. On the 18th of December, 1623, the 24th of March, 1723. I tried to look up those dates. I'm not too sure about them. But this date is what really piqued my interest, the 400 year date. The 400 synodic lunar days from before what's coming up in the next 2 weeks was the 21st of September, 1621. What interests me about that date is it's very close, and maybe it could be on the autumn equinox. That interests me, but then I did a little research on it. And would you know something? A lot happened on that date, especially when it came to our colonization. September to August 1621, the Pilgrims celebrate their successful harvest with a harvest celebration known as the First Thanksgiving, which takes place sometimes in late September or early October of 1621. Got it. History of the First Thanksgiving. The First Thanksgiving was a harvest celebration held by the Pilgrims of Plymouth Colony in the 17th century. Many myths surround the First Thanksgiving. Very little is actually known about the event because only 2 first-hand accounts of the feast were ever written, of course. And it was the people who did the murdering. But another thing to look into, right? The First Thanksgiving. Thanks for giving us your land. White man, I never gave you land. Now I wanted to touch on what I said about this being the birth of Messiah. As I said, I've touched on this before. But now I'm going to take a serious look into this. And I'm going to save this as a picture. I'm going to put it on my Google Drive, and you guys can look at it if you want. So I'm going to leave that in the description if you guys want to read it. So I just want to read a few things. The history of Russia and China is full of distortions and fictions. For political and many other reasons, legends were constructed around the Tatar-Mongolian yoke in Russia and the centuries-old struggle with the Huns in China. Both of these are simply untrue. And so we shall try to explain in the pages of this book what it was in fact, and why the Great Wall was built in China in the 15th and 16th centuries. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily the truth, but there's a reason why Russia and China, especially just like Southeast Asia or just that region in general, that history is so skewed and it makes no sense. And what I pretty much also got a revelation of last week, as you guys know, not too many watched that video, but it was me explaining what happened to the Northern Kingdom. The Northern Kingdom did not come to North America. They left North America and they went to Southeast Asia. They were the Mayans who left all their lands and came over here and made their empire. That people, that the modern day Asian people are acting like they built, and they had nothing to do with it. Marco Polo. So, oh, I forgot. I'm moving way too fast. My fault. According to the dating of the adherents of the new chronology, the activity of John the Baptist and afterwards Jesus Christ occurred in the 11th century AD. An indication of these events is preserved in the Chronicles. The Curiat accepted baptism in 1009. At approximately the same time, the Turkish-speaking Angut accepted Christianity. The Oghuz and in the part of Chigil were baptized, even among the Khitan themselves and the tribes of western Manchuria, who were subordinate to them. Some Christian element was found in the grave rise to the appearance in medieval Europe of the legend of Prester John. Most likely, this is a reflection of John the Baptist and the baptism connected with him, especially since in the beginning of the 11th century, John Cessentius appears in Roman history, who is one of the reflections of John the Baptist. So there's a bunch of reflections, phantoms, some people, I'm looking at you, Drop, who try to say that everything is a phantom that didn't happen at the very beginning. Oh, if anyone's named Joshua, they're all a phantom. Like, come on now. But whatever. And once we see John the Baptist, Christ must appear shortly after. Thus, in the middle of the 11th century AD, Prince Yan Hao, who in 1038 AD declared himself Son of Heaven, appears in China. The Son of Heaven was murdered in 1048. That is at the same time as Jesus Christ. So pretty much the reason why I read that is because I don't necessarily know if it was in, the 1000s AD or the 11th century, but I do know that it probably was not when people say it is. 2,000 years ago is what I'm really talking about. It was probably like 1,200 years ago. We're probably either in the year 12,000, 1,200 or 800. Now, who was Marco Polo? He was the Italian traveler who traveled where? In Asia. A book that described to Europeans the then mysterious culture and inner workings of the Eastern world, including the wealth and great size of the Mongol Empire. Who were the Mongols? As I said, the Mayans, they created Cambodia. They created all the places in Southeast Asia. Right? So the Northern Kingdom, their original lands, were in the region that the original Mayans were. They left and went to Asia. Then the Book of Mormon events take place, and then they come back. And they capture the Yucatan Peninsula. Then some of the Northern Kingdom come back as the Aztecs. We went over this before, right? Then you have the Yuan dynasty. I have to go over all this stuff because I'm not too familiar with this stuff, right? I'm not. But Genghis Khan, what did he do? Well, he was the founder and first great Khan and emperor of the Mongol Empire. Again, we were the Mongols. Drop knows about this. He's the one who, put everyone onto this. But what did he do? He came to power by uniting many of the nomadic tribes. Why were they nomads? Because they're the lost tribes of Israel, bro. The real Mongols, not this guy, not this pink-skinned whatever the hell he is, not this Neanderthal. I'm talking about the real Asians. The real Asians, the Northern Kingdom. So I think this is about it. Let me know what you guys think. If you have a question, feel free to let me know. Put it in the comment section. I'll definitely, answer your questions. So I think that's about it. I don't want to miss anything. No, that's about it. Let me know what you guys think. May peace be with you. Selah Kala.